The Silent Return. The Discovery Captain Vrel of the Galactic Union Survey Ship Constellation had mapped 17 dead worlds in his career. Each one told a story of civilizations that had risen and fallen, leaving only ruins and silence behind. When his sensors detected unusual energy readings from Sol 3, the third planet in a forgotten system on the edge of charted space, he expected to find nothing more than another graveyard. The system's records showed a species called humans had once lived there. 3 centuries ago, their primitive radio signals had stopped abruptly. The prevailing theory suggested they had destroyed themselves in nuclear war, a common fate for aggressive species who developed weapons before wisdom. The Union had marked the system as a cautionary tale and moved on. Vrel guided his ship closer, his 4 eyes scanning the data streams. His crew worked quietly at their stations, efficient and professional. They had done this countless times before. Survey the dead world, catalog the remains, file the report, move to the next system. Simple routine work. Then the communications officer made a sound Vrel had never heard from her before. Something between shock and fear. Captain, we're being scanned. Multiple sources, incredibly sophisticated technology. The planet is not dead. Vrel's second heart began beating faster. Defensive posture. Shields to maximum. Can you identify the technology? Negative, Captain. The scanning methods are unlike anything in our databases. Wait, we're receiving a transmission. A voice filled the bridge, speaking flawless Galactic common with a slight accent that sounded almost musical. Survey vessel Constellation, this is Earth traffic control. Welcome to the Sol system. Your visit is unexpected but not unwelcome. Please maintain your current position while we arrange proper greeting protocols. Vrel stared at his communications officer. Earth traffic control implied organization, infrastructure, civilization. Respond. Tell them we come in peace representing the Galactic Union. The response came immediately. We're familiar with the Union, Captain Vrel. We've been monitoring galactic communications for quite some time. A diplomatic shuttle will reach you in approximately 12 minutes. In the meantime, please enjoy this view of our home. The main screen shifted to show Earth in stunning detail. Vrel had seen thousands of inhabited worlds, but something about this one seemed different. Cities of light dotted the surface, but they appeared to grow organically rather than sprawl destructively. Orbital structures ringed the planet in elegant patterns. Ships moved with purpose between stations that shouldn't exist according to Union technology standards. How is this possible? His navigation officer whispered. The records show they barely achieved spaceflight 300 years ago. Vrel had no answer. He watched the approaching shuttle with growing unease. It moved with impossible grace, its hull seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal. When it docked with the Constellation, he noted the connection was perfectly calibrated, despite their ships having completely different designs. The airlock opened. 3 humans stepped through, and Vrel had to resist the urge to step backward. The records had described humans as fragile beings, small and weak compared to most spacefaring species. These individuals carried themselves with quiet confidence that suggested otherwise. The lead human was a woman with silver hair and dark skin, wearing a simple uniform that somehow conveyed more authority than the most elaborate military dress. She smiled, extending her hand in what Vrel recognized as a human greeting gesture. Captain Vrel, I'm Ambassador Sarah Chen. These are my colleagues, Dr. Marcus Webb and Security Specialist Amara Okonkwo. Thank you for visiting our system. Vrel carefully took her hand, noting her grip was firm but not aggressive. Ambassador Chen, the Union believed your species was extinct. What happened here? Sarah's smile didn't waver, but something flickered in her eyes. Sadness, perhaps, or memory of pain. 300 years ago, we faced a choice. Continue as we were, joining the galaxy as another minor species following established patterns, or take a different path. We chose isolation. We went quiet, focused inward, and rebuilt everything about who we were. The explanation, Doctor. Webb gestured toward a display he'd brought with him. Images appeared in the air between them, showing Earth's transformation. We watched the galaxy through telescopes and monitoring stations. We studied every species, every technology, every conflict and cooperation. We learned without being seen. During that time, we asked ourselves fundamental questions about what humanity should become. Amara spoke for the first time, her voice carrying military precision. We saw patterns in galactic civilization. Species developed technology in predictable ways. They fought wars using standard tactics. They built economies based on scarcity and competition. We realized we didn't want to simply copy what already existed. So you hid, Vrel said, struggling to understand. You abandoned contact with the galaxy. We invested in ourselves, Sarah corrected gently. We unified our world not through conquest but through choice. We solved problems that had plagued humanity for millennia. Poverty, disease, environmental destruction, tribal conflicts. We asked what kind of species we wanted to be, and then we became that species. Vrel's analytical mind processed this information. What you're describing would take thousands of years for most civilizations. Most civilizations don't have humanity's particular combination of traits, Marcus said. We're adaptable, restless, curious, and stubborn. We also had the advantage of learning from everyone else's mistakes. We studied the Union's history, saw what worked and what didn't. We designed our path carefully. Sarah stepped closer to Vrel, her expression serious. Captain, we know our silence caused concern. We know the Union assumed we'd died out. We're ready to return now, but we want to be clear about our intentions. We're not coming back as supplicants seeking permission to join galactic society. We're coming back as equals, offering partnership rather than requesting patronage. The Union Council will need proof of your capabilities, Vrel said carefully. Your isolation will have created skepticism. They'll want to understand what you've achieved. Of course, Sarah agreed. That's why we'd like to invite you to visit Earth. See what we've built. Meet our people. Then you can report honestly to the Union about what humanity has become. The visit, Vrel agreed, curiosity overwhelming caution. His ship followed the human shuttle down through Earth's atmosphere. What he saw during that descent changed his understanding of what civilization could achieve. The cities were marvels of integration between nature and technology. Buildings rose like trees, their surfaces covered in living plants that generated oxygen and absorbed waste. Transportation systems moved silently, efficiently, without the pollution and chaos that plagued most industrial worlds. Energy systems drew power from the sun, wind, and some technology Vrel couldn't immediately identify. But the technology, as impressive as it was, didn't shock him as much as the people. Everywhere he looked, humans worked together with an ease that suggested deep social bonds. Children played in parks alongside adults conducting business. Artists created beside scientists. There was diversity in appearance, culture, and thought, yet it all functioned as a cohesive whole. How did you achieve this level of social integration? Vrel asked as they toured a research facility. Most species require strict hierarchies or hive minds to coordinate at this scale. Marcus smiled. We learned to value both individual freedom and collective responsibility. Every human receives education that emphasizes critical thinking alongside empathy. We celebrate differences while recognizing our fundamental unity. It wasn't easy. It took generations of effort and countless failures, but we persisted. They visited a hospital where diseases that plagued the galaxy were treated as minor inconveniences. They toured manufacturing facilities where robots and humans worked side by side, each doing what they did best. They saw schools where children learned not just information, but how to learn, how to think, how to create. The technology impressed Vrel, but it was the philosophy behind it that truly amazed him. Humans had built everything with purpose. Every innovation served to improve life rather than simply to exist. They had rejected the galaxy's assumption that progress meant accumulating power, instead defining it as expanding capability to help others. The demonstration on the final day of his visit, Sarah brought Vrel to an orbital platform. The Union will want proof we can defend ourselves, she said. That we're not just an advanced but vulnerable civilization. She gestured to a nearby asteroid, one of thousands in a managed belt around Earth. That rock is approximately the size of your ship. Standard military protocols would suggest using missiles or energy weapons to destroy it. May we show you humanity's approach? Vrel agreed, curious about what human weapons looked like. He expected some massive gun or terrible destructive force. Instead, a small ship approached the asteroid. It touched the surface gently, and then something impossible happened. The asteroid began to dissolve, not explode, not shatter, but systematically break down into its component materials. Within minutes, the massive rock had been reduced to separated piles of useful metals, minerals, and other resources. The ship collected everything efficiently, wasting nothing. We don't destroy when we can transform, Sarah explained. Our defensive philosophy isn't about having bigger weapons than our enemies. It's about making conflict unnecessary by being too valuable as partners and too complex to attack successfully. That said, we can defend ourselves if required. We simply prefer not to need to. She showed him more. Shields that didn't just block energy but absorbed and redirected it. Ships that could adapt their configuration based on situations. Manufacturing systems that could create anything from raw materials in hours. Communication technology that operated on principles the Union hadn't discovered. You could conquer half the galaxy with this technology, Vrel said quietly. We could, Sarah agreed. We won't. Conquest is inefficient and morally wrong. We'd rather trade, share knowledge, and build relationships. We want partners, not subjects. The message as Vrel prepared to leave, Marcus handed him a data storage device. This contains detailed information about our capabilities, our philosophy, and our proposals for working with the Union. We're not asking for special treatment. We're offering to contribute. We have solutions to problems the galaxy has struggled with for millennia. We want to share them. Why? Vrel asked. Why share freely what you could use for advantage? Because humanity learned something important during our isolation, Sarah said. We learned that real strength doesn't come from hoarding advantages. It comes from lifting everyone up. A galaxy where everyone thrives is safer and more interesting than one where a few dominate many. We want to live in that first galaxy, so we're going to help build it. Vrel returned to his ship with his crew, all of them processing what they'd seen. As they left Earth's system, he looked back at the blue planet that had been written off as dead. Humanity hadn't died. They had transformed themselves into something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that chose cooperation over competition, innovation over tradition, shared prosperity over hoarded power. They were returning to the galaxy not as another ambitious civilization seeking dominance, but as potential partners offering a different way forward. Vrel began composing his report to the Union Council, knowing his words would change everything. Humanity was back, and they were nothing like the galaxy expected. The new order, the Council's response, the Galactic Union Council chamber had stood for 8,000 years, witnessing the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Today, it hosted a debate that would determine the future of galactic civilization itself. 3 months had passed since Captain Vrel's report, and the galaxy was still processing the implications. High Chancellor Thoris, a being whose species had helped found the Union, addressed the assembly. His crystalline form reflected light and patterns that conveyed his uncertainty. We face an unprecedented situation. A species we declared extinct has returned more advanced than most Union members. The question before us is simple. How do we respond? The chamber erupted in discussion. Some representatives demanded humanity be contained, isolated again before they could disrupt the established order. Others saw opportunity, suggesting humanity's technology could solve long-standing problems. A few simply expressed fear of the unknown. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in the designated area for petitioning species, waiting patiently. She wore the same simple uniform as before, appearing calm despite the chaos around her. The Union had invited Earth to present their case for membership, but clearly many members hoped to find reasons for refusal. Finally, Thoris called for order. Ambassador Chen, you may address the council. Sarah stood, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Honored Chancellor, esteemed representatives, I thank you for this opportunity. Earth seeks to join the Galactic Union not because we need your protection or resources, but because we believe in the power of cooperation. We've developed significantly during our isolation, but we recognize we still have much to learn from the galaxy's diverse civilizations. A representative from the Corthian Dominion, a militaristic species that controlled significant Union resources, interrupted. You speak of cooperation, yet you developed weapons technology in secret. You hid your advancements while watching us. How can we trust species that operates through deception? We didn't deceive, Sarah replied calmly. We withdrew, which is different. We informed the galaxy we were stepping back to address internal issues. We never lied about our intentions. As for weapons, we developed defensive capabilities because history teaches that peaceful species still need to protect themselves. We're happy to share our technology, including our defensive systems, with Union members who want to learn. Another representative, this one from the Velen Collective, spoke up. You offer to share technology that took you 3 centuries to develop? Freely? What do you want in return? A seat at the table, Sarah said simply. A voice in galactic decisions. The opportunity to contribute to solving problems that affect everyone. We don't want payment for our technology. We want partnership in building a better galaxy. The skepticism in the chamber was thick enough to touch. Species that had competed for advantage for thousands of years couldn't comprehend offering valuable assets without demanding something in return. The Challenge High Chancellor Thoris proposed a solution. Ambassador Chen, the Union has protocols for evaluating species seeking membership. You would need to demonstrate capability in several areas: defense, diplomacy, technology, and problem solving. Would Earth be willing to undergo such evaluation? We would, Sarah agreed, with one condition. We want the challenges to reflect real problems, not artificial tests. Give us actual issues the Union has struggled with. Let us prove our value by providing genuine help. This sparked new debate, but eventually the Council agreed. They would present Earth with 3 challenges. Success would demonstrate humanity deserved Union membership. Failure would justify continued isolation. The first challenge came immediately. The Broken Worlds, a cluster of 7 planets caught in civil war for 2 centuries, had resisted all Union peacekeeping efforts. Each world had legitimate grievances, complex histories, and leaders too proud to compromise. The Union had essentially abandoned the system after losing dozens of peacekeepers to the endless conflict. Bring peace to the Broken Worlds, Thoris declared. Accomplish what the Union could not. Sarah accepted without hesitation. Within a week, a human diplomatic team arrived in the Broken World system. They were led by negotiator James Okafor, a man whose patient smile masked a brilliant strategic mind, and mediator Elena Vasquez, who had spent decades resolving Earth's most intractable conflicts. The warring factions refused to meet at first. Each side demanded the others acknowledge fault before any negotiations could begin. This stalemate had paralyzed previous Union efforts for decades. James and Elena didn't try to force meetings. Instead, they simply began talking to people on each world individually. They listened to farmers whose crops had been destroyed. They heard from parents who'd lost children to violence. They sat with soldiers tired of fighting. They spoke with historians about how the conflict began and philosophers about what peace might look like. They asked questions instead of offering solutions. After 3 weeks, something remarkable happened. The common people on all 7 worlds began talking to each other, facilitated by communication networks the humans established. They shared stories, discovered common ground, and realized their leaders had been fighting over issues that mattered far less than the daily suffering everyone endured. Popular movements emerged on each world, demanding their leaders negotiate. The leaders, facing potential revolution if they refused, finally agreed to meet. James and Elena didn't chair the negotiations. They simply provided framework for conversation and occasionally asked strategic questions. What would prosperity look like for your world? They might ask. Or what do your children need that they're not getting? Or if you could solve one problem through cooperation, which would you choose? The negotiations took 2 months. There were setbacks, angry departures, threats to abandon the process, but slowly, painfully, agreements formed. Trade partnerships that would benefit all 7 worlds. Cultural exchanges that would rebuild understanding. Joint infrastructure projects that would create prosperity. Mechanisms for resolving future disputes without violence. When the peace accords were signed, the galaxy watched in amazement. The humans hadn't imposed solutions. They'd created space for the Broken Worlds to solve their own problems. They'd facilitated rather than dominated, and it had worked. The second challenge came from an unexpected source. The Quen Research Collective, a species devoted to scientific advancement, presented a problem they'd wrestled with for 50 years. Their homeworld was dying, its magnetic field collapsing in ways that would make the planet uninhabitable within a decade. They'd tried every conventional solution without success. Save our world, the Quen representative requested, desperation clear in their multifaceted eyes. Show us humanity's vaunted innovation can solve what we cannot. Dr. Lisa Park arrived on the Quen homeworld with a small team of researchers. She spent the first week simply studying the problem, running simulations, analyzing data the Quen had collected over half a century. Her team worked alongside Quen scientists, treating them as colleagues rather than competitors. Your magnetic field isn't just collapsing, Lisa explained after reviewing the data. It's shifting. The pattern suggests your planet's core is restructuring itself. You've been fighting against a natural process instead of working with it. The lead Quen scientist made a gesture of confusion. Natural process? Our world is dying. Your world is changing, Lisa corrected, which I admit sounds unhelpful since the change will kill everyone. But here's the thing. You've been trying to restore the old magnetic field. What if instead we help your planet establish a new stable configuration? She showed them her proposal. Using precisely placed gravitational generators, they could guide the core's restructuring process, accelerating it in controlled ways. Instead of fighting the change, they would direct it toward a stable new pattern. It was risky, requiring technology the Quen didn't possess and precision that seemed impossible. We can't do this alone, Lisa admitted. We need your understanding of your planet's unique geology combined with our gravitational technology. Real partnership, not us imposing a solution. The Quen scientists were skeptical but desperate. They worked with the human team, sharing knowledge freely. The humans taught them gravitational manipulation principles that the Union had never discovered. The Quen shared insights about planetary science that expanded human understanding. 3 months later, they activated the gravitational network. The planet shuddered as massive forces guided its core into new patterns. For 6 terrifying hours, seismic activity spiked. Then gradually everything stabilized. The magnetic field settled into a new configuration, different from before but strong and stable. The Quen homeworld was saved. More importantly, Quen and human scientists had formed bonds of mutual respect. They'd proven that combining different perspectives and knowledge bases could solve seemingly impossible problems. The crisis, the third challenge, never officially came from the Council. Instead, it emerged as a genuine crisis that threatened the entire Union. A quantum cascade failure began spreading through the galaxy's primary communication network, the system that connected all member worlds. If it continued unchecked, civilizations would lose contact with each other, trade would collapse, and the Union itself might fracture. Union engineers worked desperately to contain the cascade, but their solutions only slowed it temporarily. The failure was spreading along quantum channels they couldn't fully map. Panic was beginning to set in. Ambassador Sarah contacted the Council. We'd like to help. This is a Union matter, one representative objected. Earth isn't even a member yet, which is exactly why we should help, Sarah replied. We want to be partners. Partners assist during crises without asking what's in it for them. Give us access to your systems. Let our engineers work alongside yours. The Council, facing disaster, agreed. Human engineers led by technical specialist Robert Tanaka joined Union teams trying to save the network. Robert immediately identified something the Union engineers had missed. You're treating this like a technical failure, he explained. But quantum systems don't fail randomly. Something caused this cascade. Until we find the cause, any fixes are temporary. He traced the cascade backwards through the network, following patterns that seemed chaotic but contained subtle structures. After 2 days of analysis, he found the source. An old automated mining system on an abandoned world had begun operating again, sending out quantum pulses that interfered with the communication network. The mining system was ancient Union technology, forgotten and unmapped. We need to shut it down, Robert said, but carefully. If we just cut power, the sudden stop could trigger an even bigger cascade. He designed a solution. Using human quantum manipulation technology combined with Union network protocols, they would gradually absorb the mining system's pulses while slowly powering it down. It required perfect synchronization between dozens of teams across multiple worlds. The operation took 30 hours. Human and Union engineers worked together without sleep, coordinating through backup systems while the main network teetered on the edge of total failure. When they finally shut down the mining system and stabilized the network, the relief was universal. Robert's breakthrough wasn't just technical. He'd shown Union engineers new ways to think about quantum systems. More importantly, he demonstrated that human and Union specialists could work together effectively, each bringing unique strengths to solve problems neither could handle alone. The decision 2 weeks later, Ambassador Sarah stood once again before the Galactic Union Council. The chamber was packed with representatives and observers. Everyone wanted to witness this historic decision. High Chancellor Thoris addressed the assembly. Earth has successfully completed 3 challenges. They brought peace to worlds we abandoned. They saved a dying planet using methods we hadn't imagined. They helped rescue our communication infrastructure from collapse. The question before us now is simple. Does humanity deserve membership in the Galactic Union? The debate was surprisingly brief. Even species that had opposed humanity's return couldn't deny what they'd witnessed. More importantly, many had begun to see Earth not as a threat, but as an opportunity to make the Union stronger, more innovative, more capable of solving the galaxy's problems. The vote wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. Earth would join the Galactic Union as a full member with all associated rights and responsibilities. Sarah accepted gracefully. We thank the Council for this decision. Earth pledges to be an active, contributing member. We will share our knowledge freely, work alongside other species to solve problems, and always advocate for cooperation over competition. We believe the galaxy's future depends not on any single species dominating, but on all of us working together. As the chamber erupted in discussion of what humanity's membership would mean, Sarah smiled. Earth had returned to the galaxy not as conquerors or supplicants, but as partners. The old order, based on power hierarchies and controlled knowledge, was beginning to shift. The new order, built on cooperation and shared advancement, was taking its first steps. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had returned stronger than anyone imagined, not through weapons or threats, but through demonstrating a different way to exist among the stars. They'd shown that strength could mean helping others succeed rather than ensuring they failed. That progress could be shared rather than hoarded. That the galaxy's diverse species were stronger together than any could be alone. Outside the council chamber, Dr. Marcus Webb met Sarah with a smile. You did it. We are officially part of the galaxy again. We all did it, Sarah corrected. This is just the beginning. Now comes the real work of living up to what we promised, of proving every day that cooperation works better than competition. Marcus nodded, looking out at the stars visible through the chamber's massive windows. The galaxy spent 300 years assuming we were dead. They're going to spend the next 300 learning what humanity really means. Sarah joined him at the window, watching ships from 100 worlds moving through space, each on their own journeys. Then let's make sure we teach them well, not through dominance but through example, not by telling them what to do, but by showing them what's possible when species choose to work together. The galaxy was changing, and humanity would be part of that change. Not as rulers or rebels, but as partners helping to build something better than what had come before. They had returned home to the stars, and they were ready to help make that home better for everyone.